Hey everyone, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in this video I'll show you how to use the Silhouette Cameo's sketch option to make your own custom heat embossed designs. This should work on other Silhouette machines or really any digital die cutting machine that has a sketch option, but depending on what software you're using, the file setup might be a little bit different. Okay, so I have the sketch file that I'll be using open in Silhouette Studio 4.1. I have the designer edition, but the features that I'll be using should be available in any version of Silhouette Studio above version 3.0. This sketch file is a pattern background with a 5x7" border, so we can make a custom pattern card background with it. But we only want to sketch the pattern part of the image, and we want to cut the border. In its current state, the file can either be cut or sketched, but not both. So we're going to make use of Silhouette Studio's Cut by Color feature, which is available in Silhouette Studio version 3.0 and above. To do this, first I'm going to go to the top left menu and click Object, then Ungroup to ungroup the file. Now the border is a separate element from the patterned area. Next, I'll go over to the far right menu and click to open the Line Style panel. Then I'll click to select just the pattern portion of the design, and I'll click the icon at the top of the panel that has the colored lines to open the Color Picker panel. We want to change the pattern's line color, and you can choose any color here. I'm just going to choose a shade of blue. Okay, now the border rectangle, which we want to cut, is a different color than the pattern area, which we want to sketch. At this point, or at any point after you ungroup the file, you can resize either the rectangle or the pattern to customize it for whatever project you're using it for. For the time being, I'm just going to leave everything at its original size. Next, I'll click the Send tab from the top right menu. You'll see an area where it says Action By at the top of the Send panel, and we have some options here. The default option is Simple, which is what we have now. And you can see that the entire design has a red border, which means that it's only set to do one thing. So at this point we could either sketch or cut, but we won't be able to do both. This is where the Cut by Color feature comes in. In the Action By area, I'll click Line instead of leaving it on the default Simple option, and when I do this, a new panel will open up. Since I'm using a Silhouette Cameo 3, I have two tool holders, so I'll be able to both cut and sketch without having to pause the machine in between. If you do want to pause between actions though, there is an Add Pause button that's available, which can really come in handy. Right now, both our red and blue lines are set to use the red tool holder, which you can see in the far left column where both have the little red circle active. The rectangle portion of the design is the bottom row in the panel here, with the red outline color shown by the little red square, and it's set to cut with the left tool holder. We'll leave this as is. For the sketch pattern portion of the design, we want to go to the left column and click to choose the right tool holder, which is represented by the little blue circle. When we click that, the little blue circle is activated, and this portion of the design will use the right tool holder on the Cameo. The action for this tool is currently set to cut, but we want to sketch. So I'll go over to the action column, click the drop-down, and choose sketch from the drop-down options. And when I do this, you can see in the far right column that the tool icon will change from a cutting blade to a sketch pen. There's one final thing that I need to do before I send this to my Cameo for cutting and sketching. I'll click the Design tab from the top right menu to go back to the design view. Then I'll click the top icon from the far right menu to open up the Page Setup panel. And then I'll choose Automatic, in parentheses Cameo, from the Size dropdown. If your paper is already set to a 12 by 12 inch size, you won't need to do this step. But if your page is set to 8.5 by 11 inch letter size, like mine usually is, then you'll need to do this. You can change the page setup at any time. I just forgot to do it until now, and I'll show you why you'll need to do this in a little bit. Next, I'm going to click and drag on the artboard to select the whole design, and then I'll drag it up to the top right of the page. Ideally, the design will fit between the 7-inch and 12-inch marks on the mat, but this file is a little bit larger and doesn't quite fit within that area, but it's close. Okay, now we're just about ready to send our design to the Cameo. So I'll click on the Send tab from the top right menu to open the Send panel again. And when I do this, you can see that the Action By Line panel is still open and our settings from earlier are still there. Before we send the design to our machine, we need to set things up so it's ready. So I'll see you over at the Cameo. Alright, so our left tool, the one with the red circle on it, has a cutting blade in it, so we're set with that because this is the tool that will cut the rectangle border. We'll need to load the right tool holder, the one with the little blue circle, with our sketch pen holder. I'm personally not a big fan of the sketch pen holder from Silhouette, so I'm going to be using a Choma's Creations holder. These holders are about $20 or so, but this holder has been a great investment for me because I find that it's so much more flexible with what it can hold. It's also easier to use because it just has an adjustable screw on the side to secure the sketch pen or marker. I'll place the pen holder into the right tool holder and secure it in place by pressing the tab on the tool holder toward the pen holder until it clicks in place. Then I'm going to slide a wood craft stick under the blue tool holder area. I learned this trick when I bought my Choma's Creations holder and it's genius. The wood craft stick allows you to get just the right placement for most pens and markers for sketching. I'll be using a Sakura Quickie glue pen to sketch with, and if you've seen my earlier video about sketching and foiling, then this isn't the first time that you've seen me use this pen. It's basically my new holy grail sketching tool. I'll remove the cap from the glue pen and place it down into the pen holder until it just touches the wood craft stick. You don't want to press it into the stick or you might end up with a glue line across your design when the tool holder returns to its default place after sketching. Just make sure that the tip of the glue pen just touches that craft stick. If you press the pen into the craft stick too much, the glue will start to run out and start to pull on the stick. But if you just allow the tip to touch the craft stick, you'll have a little dot of glue and an even glue line on the stick when you remove it. Sometimes it can take a few tries to get the placement just right, but the craft stick helps so much and is just the thing for most sketch pens and markers that I've used. When I'm happy with my glue pen placement, I'll secure it in place by using the screw on the side of the pen holder, and then I'll remove the wood craft stick. Now I want to show you why we placed our sketch file at the top right of the mat in Silhouette Studio. On the Silhouette machines, you have these little rollers and springs to deal with, and sometimes glue or ink can get onto these areas as the rollers go over them while sketching out the design. If this happens, it can smear your design. I've had this problem a lot with gel pens because the gel ink takes a little while to dry. Glue pens are similar in that the glue doesn't dry immediately. I have a Cameo mat up against the roller area here, and you can see that there are breaks between the 1 and 3 inch markers, a small break between about the 4.5 and 6 inch markers, and the widest area is between the 7 and 12 inch markers on the mat. This last area is where I usually place my sketch designs. I'll place my cardstock onto the right side of my mat since this is where the design is. And since we're going to be heat embossing, I'm going to go over the piece of cardstock with a powder tool to help prevent any excess embossing powder from sticking later. Then I'll load the mat and go over to my computer and hit the send button in Silhouette Studio to send the sketch design that I have set up over to the Cameo to sketch. As the machine is sketching, you can hopefully see at least some of the sketch lines since they're a little bit shiny, and the glue in this glue pen is blue when wet, so you might be able to see some of those lines too. After the sketching is finished, the Cameo will cut the rectangle border, and once that's done, we'll unload the mat and remove the pen from the holder and put the cap back on so any glue on the tip of the pen doesn't dry. Now we're ready for the heat embossing. I've removed the sketch piece from the mat and have a paper towel underneath it to catch the excess embossing powder. I'm using colored embossing powder for this so you can see it better. I'll cover the entire design with embossing powder and then I'll tap the cardstock onto my work surface to remove any excess powder. One of the things that makes this glue pen so awesome is that it remains sticky for a while after it's dry, which is just what we need so our embossing powder sticks to it, and you can see how great it does just that. Now I'm going to come in with a heat tool and melt the embossing powder in place. Be very careful and keep your fingers out of the way so you don't burn them while you're doing this. When I'm finished, you can see how awesome these heat embossed results are. I can't even tell you how excited I was when I first saw the results with the glue pen. I just love how fine the line is and how well the embossing powder sticks to it. So before I found this glue pen, I tried the sketch and heat emboss technique with a number of embossing pens and markers, and none of the results with the embossing pens came even close to the results with the glue pen. One of the embossing pens that I tried is the Ranger Perfect Medium Bullet Tip pen, which has more of a marker-like tip, and this is how the same design made with this pen turned out. You can see that the embossing powder coverage is spotty and the line is much thicker. I think that because the embossing pens tend to have felt tips like markers, it makes it hard to get consistent coverage across a sketch design because the ink flow isn't as steady as it is with the glue pen. Plus, the ink can start to dry out, especially if it's a larger design and takes more time to sketch. My results with the bullet tip end of the Versamarker were very similar to these results with the Ranger Perfect Medium pen. I also tried one of the Letter It pens. These are also from Ranger, and I think that there are 2 different sets available. I have the set with the bullet tip pen, and this tip is a bit finer than either the tip of the Ranger Perfect Medium pen or the bullet tip end of the Versamarker. Here are the results with the Letter It pen. I like that the tip on this was finer, so the sketch lines were finer, but you can see that I had the same issues with this pen as I did with the other 2 embossing pens. Embossing powder coverage was super spotty because of the nature of the tip of the pen and the flow of the ink in pens with felt tips like these, and also possibly because the ink started to dry. So the Sakura Quickie Glue Pen is the way to go for sketching and heat embossing. I love that it has a nice fine tip so you can create more intricate designs with smaller details without having the lines spooged together when sketched. And embossing powder really sticks to it well, which is the key for solid heat embossed results. You can find a full list of supplies that I used in this video in the description area below, or in the area below the video if you're watching at k.becca.com. I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and if you'd like to see more sketch pen project videos, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.